What is going on, everyone, and welcome to a special video. I just wanted to do a update video on my whole Dark Knight build. So basically, from last time we made one to now, a few things have changed, like skill add-ons, just like not really a meta shift, but I guess I could go over pretty much skill combos and just everything, plus a lot of questions you guys have given me in terms of Dark Knight that I could just go over all in one video. So in terms of like gearing, it's mostly the same. My general idea is get the biggest gains you can for the least amount of money. Alright, well, anyway, so this is where we're at right now. In terms of progression, just making like, switching over to Turo build at some point, and getting a Garmoth's Heart for the Nuvar. That's pretty much it. Since last time, we moved the Garmoth's Heart from the Nuvar to the Dandy just because of the crystal slots. Now we have to buy a third one, and then we have a Kudum. So, number one question for Dark Knights I've been getting, which I would say is pretty obvious, but apparently people ask, so I'll explain it. Kudum or Nuvar? I guess this goes for every class, but generally, if you're PvEing, you just mostly go for Kudum, PvP, Nuvar, but at various breakpoints and just like very late game, you might want to use Nuvar just for everything. But generally, at that point where you want to switch to Kudum is probably really high up there past the 289 bracket, I would just say. But anyway, let's go over the thing that you guys may be interested in the most. It is add-ons. Now, before I show you anything, I just want to say that my add-ons are more tailored to PvP, but I do have some options for you guys as in terms of like grinding PvE stuff. Also, mostly I play Succession, but if you are playing Awakening, we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So, skill add-ons. This is what I use. If you just want to take a quick screenshot, here it is. I'll explain my choices and like why I chose this one. So I know for Dark Knights in particular, there are only so many skills you can use that don't overlap, and there's probably going to be a little bit of overlapping with some skills, but for the most part, I am Evasion, which is something we'll get into a little bit later. Evasion versus DR. Don't worry, there's a lot of controversy over that one, just in general, but I'll tell you why I chose my stuff. So, Airstrike, we chose this one because Airstrike is a pretty solid opener, and keep in mind, I am more PvP focused, but we'll talk about PvP or PvE add-ons in a second. So, Airstrike is a solid opener. This one is more of a flex spot. Well, a few of them are kind of flex spots, but Airstrike is an opener for me. We increase your PvP damage and casting speed. So when you open in, try to airstrike someone and try to knock them down, then you get the bonuses on that. If you don't like Airstrike, another thing you could probably switch to is Slanted Balance. That one's pretty solid. Slanted Balance, you also use that one for PvP as well. Wheel of Fortune is very important. You should get this add-on whether you're PvP or PvE. The difference is you would be changing up like DP or evasion for like monster damage and or like speed and crit. So yeah, this one I didn't really know what to choose. I just kind of chose evasion because of the meta. If it ever shifts to DR, well, I guess we got that covered too. But Pervasive Darkness is something I mostly use into the flow before enforcement. So that's just something I do. Whether you use this before or after Wheel of Fortune. Sorry. And then it doesn't really matter. So you're going to either get one of these before you use Lunacy of Vidir. Very strong ability. If you mostly use this if someone is like already CC'd, and then you just slam the Lunacy down and it chunks their health. If not, it kills them. So accuracy, I guess that's okay. The crit damage is pretty solid. If you are PvE with this one, you would also want to take the extra damage to monsters and or like speed, movement speed. Movement speed is kind of bad, but if you're making PvE builds, getting from pack A to B, it's pretty good. Other than that, it's like half of these are kind of irrelevant. So yeah, that's what I'd switch. Enforcement, very strong thing to use. Hit them, stiffen into a like CC of some sort, and then you pretty much go with the flow, enforcement, and then they take a chunk of damage. If not, they're dead already. So you want accuracy, again, one of those current meta thingies that you could probably switch in the future. I know this overlaps with Airstrike, but I mean, there are only so many things you pick. Now, Spirit Legacy is one of those things that you shouldn't use on, like, while it's on cooldown, but I've seen people just like spam it before. So yeah, it's one of those things where you can spam, but you shouldn't. So this is what I have for PvP. If you were PvE, what you switch it to is monster damage, and I don't know, whatever else you think might be good. So those are the big ones. Down attack damage, it's okay. It does down attack, I think, sometimes when it works. And then as for the all defense, I guess that's fine. You do it, and then it makes it so like you more or less don't get like clapped when you're doing that. It's supposedly it says forward guard, but it doesn't. One thing that I've noticed is when, you know how they added the new icon, right? Like the icons when it says like invincible versus forward guard and super armor. When you use Airstrike, that invincible icon does not show up, so I don't even know if Airstrike actually works, but, you know, sometimes. So that's my add-ons. Let's go talk about some skills and, I guess, gear crystals and all that stuff. So keep in mind what I have, obviously, tailored towards Evasion versus DR, but, yeah. If I were to switch to anything, probably be a Turo belt for more accuracy. And I know some people are going like full DR builds. So I guess one thing we could talk about now is DR versus Evasion. Now this one goes very like complicated. And so I'm just going to go over the basics, like things we already know. So at some point, I think like, I don't know the exact number, but at some point DR kind of like caps at like a number, and then like going downhill where scaling it up isn't as effective as going Evasion. So that's why generally across the board all classes Evasion is considered better, because DR, the higher you go, the less benefit you get, whereas Evasion just like straight line graph up. So, yeah, this is what I did. If you were non-Evasion, what would you be doing? A Beg's Gloves, Uragons, Griffin Helmet. You would probably still go Nuvar. Now, for a lot of classes, I would say you don't technically need Nuvar. But for Dark Knights, as we already know, we're kind of like under average. They're not bad. They just don't perform as well as Strikers or Succession Wizards and Witches. So that's the best way I could put it. And then when should you switch to Evasion if you're going to do that? When you're already full pen. So like if you're at full Tet right now, and you have DR gear, just keep going with that. It's fine. DR isn't bad. Evasion just is better for very late game. So, yeah, here's where we're at with Kudum. And let's see, what other things do people ask often? Oh yeah, crystals. So if you want to take a screenshot, that's cool. So these are, for the most part, what I use, and I'll explain all of them. So Zarka, we have the Elkhart Crystals, and they're basically best-in-slot precisions. And what they do, they add ignore all resistance, which is pretty good. Accuracy, very good. They're also, like, for the most part, sold out on the market, so you're going to have to either grind it or put an order on it and hope for the best. If you are not at the point where you're willing to spend, like... Oh my god, that's... Now you can get it. If you put an order on it, you'll get it in a day. But anyway, if you're not willing to spend 330 million silver on it, what should you do? Just go precision crystals and get these if they're ever in stock. I'm pretty sure before we even click it, there's probably like a few thousand on order. So that's a few thousand, like 14,000. But if you were to get it, I'm pretty sure Centaurs drops it. They nerfed the drop rate on it. But if you were to grind it, you could probably get it in a few hours versus probably a month to get one off an order. So, yes. Precisions work if you can get them. Honestly, like, I'm gonna be honest, these grapple resistance ones are pretty good for PvP. I don't use them because I have Elkhars, but honestly, like, you have a higher chance of getting an Elkhar than a 6 mil crystal. I think if they were to raise the price of this to, like, or generally if they just raise the price of all black magic crystals to like 20, 30, some would cap out. This one would definitely, you would see more on the market if they were like 30 mil a piece, and I would still say it's worth it. So what I would do is, if you're just looking for it, just, I know it sucks, but just get an Elkhar if you can. You have a higher chance of getting that. In the meantime, you could always use precision crystals, or what are those? The power crystals? I don't know. Like one of these thingies, they're just like straight AP for PvP, and they're actually in stock, which is a nice thing. So those are your options. In general, you'd want Elkhars. I'm pretty sure like literally every class main hand uses Elkhars. As for Awakening, this one is kind of difficult to say because not everyone has a fiery one, which the way you get it is turn a Garmoth's Heart into the Dandy the same way you would use it in your offhands. So I just use 2 Han crystals. I don't even have the 4-piece set. I just have it for the extra stats. And then the 2-set effect. Now, as for Dark Knights in particular, I have these crystals on for Nuvar and Kudum. A few people have asked me what you should have in a Nuvar. I think if you're trying to max out damage, you just straight up want corrupted crystals in both of them. So like whether you're using Kudum or Nuvar, a lot of people have told me, a lot of Dark Knights have told me, I should say, that just corrupted crystals across the board. It's just the way to go. Except I'm kind of at the point in the game where I use my Kudum more than Nuvar, so I haven't really bothered to put corrupteds in the other ones. But if you are also on a budget, this is also what you should use. The Rebellious Spirit Crystals, mostly for the health, AP, cool. Crit damage is budget. But overall, Awaken Crystals. Ooh, these are also sold out. Oh, never mind. Just put an order, you'll get it. Altara Crystals. White. Okay, never mind. This is basically the same thing with comma damage. Just get this one. It's cheaper. Same thing. Alright. And then the critical crystals. The lowest of the budget you can get. I used to run 2 of these back in the day before like corrupteds and all those things came out. It's also fine, depending on where you are in the game. So what other crystals do we have? Jin Viper's accuracy is pretty much the reason. Across the board, doesn't matter what class you're playing, he's best in slot. A Muskin, or your shoes in general. Now this is one that I know a lot of people change out. So the people that run like 4 Hooms, you would have it 2 in here and then 2 in here. I personally like not getting CC'd in general, so I try to have this, even though it's like resistances feel like a meme in this game, but in the case it does help, which it does a little bit. I like having this one because when you're at high end like PvP and you're fighting people of very similar AP, DP and stuff, realistically whoever gets CC'd first generally dies, and that goes especially true for Dark Knights, and that's what it is. So that's why I have more resist crystals versus Hooms, where I might be able to survive a hit, maybe, versus just not being, just like dodging a CC is way more valuable to me personally. We have Fallen God, but if you have like a red nose or tree armor and you're working up to it, that's also fine. If you don't have, if you're not Evasion, what should you get? Definitely not these Evasion crystals, even though I think they're pretty good. So what I used when I had my DR build were these Cobalinus ones, and I think you want the Jin ones because if you're like DR, you want to like as much DR as you can, whereas if you're Evasion, you want Evasion. Going hybrid DK is generally not that good. Just, I've tried it, it's not really nice. So you either want to go DR or Evasion. Just pick one and then go with it. That would be my advice. So the difference between these are the amount of DR versus HP you get. So I personally, back in the day, had two Jins. I guess these might be okay. I've never used them. Well, this one, RBF one. It might be okay. Never used it, but if you're into PvP. Heave is also another spot. Let's say you didn't have the fiery. You could have like 2 Hooms in here and then 2 Hooms in here and get the 4-piece as well. So that's how I used to do it. 2 Hooms here, shoes and helm, and before I even had this one or is even in the game. So that's what I have. Evasion stack, more Evasion. Just everyone has Vipers and resist. So also in terms of accessories, people sometimes do ask me what are some like things I can get for more survivability. Honestly, for DKs, like even now when I fight some of my guildies in like RBF or Battle Arena, and they have similar if not higher gear than I do, you still, the 368 number that feels like 310 if you're fighting other people of same gear levels. So if you want more tanky stuff, what you should do, just get more HP. I wouldn't really, it's hard to recommend HP gear, but if you're like at some point of upgrading, you could go Eye of the Ruins and then Voltara. I personally would just go more AP. Kill the enemies before they kill you. That's pretty much the meta right now. So that's what I would do. Distortions, that one's hard because distortions do drop your DP a little bit. So when is a good time to like upgrade into distortions? I would say once you, it's one of those feeling things. Like if you're in PvP, do you notice you're getting like one-shotted a lot? If so, probably not the time to be upgrading. But when I personally got my distortions, I was already full pen armors, and I wasn't C9 Capris, or Capris in my armors, but I was around like C3 to 6 on all of them. So that's when I upgraded into distortions. Formerly, I had 2 Tungrad earrings, which it's hard to recommend those now. So I used to run 2 of these at TET, and basically what I traded was DP for a little bit more AP. But I know a lot of people that also use narc earrings, and at this point, realistically, you kind of want them at pen before anything. So like Tet is fine for a mid tier, but if you're gonna commit to narc earrings, you really just want to get it at pen. Save up the money, try to get pen if you're gonna commit to 2 of them, because you're really losing a lot of AP over time. You get 10 DP, but it really doesn't feel like a lot unless you full stack DP build. So if you're just going like AP everything, but you have 10 extra DP, it doesn't really matter unless you stack DP in your like 500 meme build, whatever. And yeah, Zarka versus Black Star. That's another big one that people like to talk about. But what we know, if you like grinding a lot and the only PvP you do is when you duel for spot, just get a Black Star. It's almost the same. If you do node wars with your guilds, siege, and just you like doing a lot of stuff, PvP and PvE, go Zarka. When I tested it with like, okay, so I have a Tet Black Star right now, right? It's waiting to go pen, basically. So this is what the difference is. Keep in mind, my Zarka is Capris 4. Otherwise, if you didn't have any Capris in your Zarka, the stats would be relatively the same. The difference is you get more monster AP versus, more monster AP on the Black Star versus more like all species damage on the Zarka. So that's why people say Zarka for PvP and Black Star for PvE. Ultimately, it feels the same. So in my testing at like a few hours of Star's End, technically yes, Black Star is better. How much better? Like I made maybe like 5 mil more in trash, maybe like 3 to 5 mil more in trash per hour. Is that a lot? Not really. Will it add up eventually? Probably. Eventually. So yeah, and then, but my ultimate advice is, in terms of like which order to go for upgrades, just look at the market, sit down, spend like 20 minutes, look at the price of every accessory, and or just gear in general, and which one gives you the most gains for the least amount of money, and do that one first. So right now, like if you're watching this like when the video was released, belts are the cheapest right now. Distortions are like the highest right now, so you don't want to go for these first ever. Crescent rings or just like ring slots are like okay-ish, and well, I guess the necklace spot is just whenever you get it, I guess. Right now, so what they're doing, just log in after the whole transfer thingy, and basically, remember this used to be so hard to get a few years ago for all of us who were playing? Now they just gave free try accessories to literally everyone. So I guess that's good. If you have a boss ult, just put it on there. You have gear now. Congratulations. And you can't blow it up. Well, I mean, you can, but that can only, there's only so many level 64s that can remake these if you blow it up. So I would just put it on your boss ult, and yeah. So until then, everyone should have at least try accessories, or at least one of each of these. And you get another one for level 61. You also probably got a free pen one for doing season. And yeah, that's pretty good. So, what are some things I could teach you in terms of like skills? I'll show you that in a second. Also, in terms of Bell, just get this when you feel like you're ready for it. I literally don't know. I just got mine. It's expensive now. I got mine for about like 7 billion back in the day. Now it went up in price. So honestly, just get this when you feel like you need it, and everything else costs more. So I play Succession. What are some priority skills you should get? I think this just levels up over time. This is the basic attack. It's whatever. I personally use Unveiled Dagger a lot, so I got this one to the absolute. Airstrike, very important. Get this when you can, especially because in the beginning we talked about the add-ons. I personally use Airstrike over Slanted Balance, but I think Slanted Balance is a very strong skill. It's used to CC your enemies, and it has a forward guard, and so you don't use this for damage in PvP. You mostly use it to float your enemy and then do your combo, so which we'll get to in a little bit. But Airstrike and Slanted Balance are very strong abilities. Unveiled Dagger is something you get a little bit later, but it is a pretty strong thing. Pervasive Darkness is something I use a little bit, like mostly for the hold and second hit, which we'll talk about in a bit. Ravage Rake, kind of trash. I just leveled it up because I didn't really know what else to do. So I guess I should take a step back and say, how many skill points do you think you need? I think if I were to get only the relevant skills to max out, I would say about like 1650 to 1700. 2000 is generally more than enough. You won't max out everything, but you get the relevant skills, which you should be doing fine with. About like 1800 is just a safe spot where you have the good stuff. So yeah, I have these. Repeated Annihilation, kind of bad. Enforcement, very good. You especially want the flow and the ultimate and just like get everything for Enforcement. Comma Slash is... You don't use this for damage. You mostly just use it to... If you see an enemy charging at you, you hold Comma Slash and basically hope the forward guard works. So then we have Wheel of Fortune, very important for both PvP and PvE. Whenever you unlock it, start maxing this out as a high priority. Obsidian Ashes is not something I generally use a lot. It's more for like pulling in enemies for PvE and or just like tossing something out randomly into a group for PvP. Corrupt Ground, trash, needs buff. Like, if this had a super armor while it was going off, it would be a lot better, but it doesn't. So low priority, you probably don't even want it. Lunacy of Vidir, very high priority. Twilight Dash, I've seen people try to Twilight Dash into groups to try to do damage. That's not how you use it. You use it as an escape. Spirit Legacy, obviously one of your biggest ones. You want to get it whenever you can. E-buff. Well, this one isn't E, but your Awakening is E-buff. Let's see, what else? Shadow Bullet is something I use for PvE. Nocturne in Succession is very important, which I'll show you later. Vidir's Dogma, I see some people using it, but I don't like it that much. And then everything else, the passives, just get them. Now, if you're Awakened, what you want to get as priority, Shattering Darkness, Seed of Catastrophe is pretty good. Spirit Hunt, very important. Spirit Blaze, unless they changed it in the last like year and a half, kind of slow, and it doesn't really do anything unless you know how to use it very well. So your priorities would be obviously your E-buff here, Seed of Catastrophe, Shattering Darkness, Twilight Dash. Don't really know what like these do because they weren't there back when I played Awakening, but I'm pretty sure the choice would probably be Spirit Legacy. Yeah. Grip of Grudge needs a buff. Trap of Vidir actually needs to like do something. I've seen people try to Trap of Vidir and like they do it, and then the enemy just literally walks around it. And just like, okay, why do I use this ability? Spirit Legacy, important. Yeah. So, anyway, I could go into Battle Arena and show you some skills and combos that I use. But yeah, just keep in mind, if you have any questions at any time, just leave it in the comments, or if you want to discuss it with other people, just join my Discord. There's a BDO Discord, but I wouldn't say the BDO Discord is bad. There's just a lot of arguments on people like saying, oh, this is better, this is better. So will you get any like relevant information? I guess so, but it's like one of those things you take with a grain of salt and just like hope for the best. But I mean, I guess you could say same for here too, but I'm just gonna give you like, the only things I'm gonna tell you is what works for me. And it seemed like successful in my eyes. If you want to follow a full DR build, that's cool too. I'm sure DR is great. So let me just swap these up real quick. I'm not gonna do anything. So I'm just gonna show you some like basic combos of like what does what, how do these abilities work, and how some of them can combo well. All right. So first of all, let me just hold on. Mouse function 1, spacebar. I have mine a little bit different than most people. So, one combo we could do is the Unveiled Dagger into, like, Enforcement into other stuff. But, like, in general, a combo you should, like, start learning is basically, I'm going to show you, like, an Airstrike one, for example. Let's start over here. And then your Airstrike. That should knock them down, right? And then you could Wheel of Fortune or just knock them down again. And then you did your Enforcement and Pervasive Darkness. And then you would follow that up by the Spirit Legacy. Generally, if you, depending on how much gear you have or how much DP the enemies have, that one is good enough. But there are also some other things that I could show you in terms of, like, Succession uses Nocturne because they have a combo with various abilities. So what I'm going to show you, this is like fast pace, is like how the CCs are going to work. And just watch the enemy or watch the target dummy. It's going to get floated twice in theory, unless there's some sort of hidden RNG that we don't know about. Like, so assuming the enemy isn't forward guarded or something like that, generally in a real situation you kind of want to get behind the enemy before doing anything, because most of the time any person who knows what they're doing is going to be like blocking S block or Q block, some sort of forward guard already going on, so doing like an airstrike into that is not going to do anything. So generally the enemy is try to get behind them before doing anything. So after that, as I stated before, airstrike in into double F, and then that's generally good enough to get him down. But another thing you could do is if you don't want to go like directly into like the airstrike, or let's say that's on cooldown, there are some. This is what I use. Just keep in mind is what I use. If you don't like it, feel free to swap it. Shadow Strike. I'm gonna be honest. I use this for PvE, and it's good for pulling various mobs together. So I really just don't like Corrupt Ground in general. So I like Shadow Bullet. This is the choice for me. You might be pretty nice. Unveiled Fate versus Blaze. The reason why I chose Blaze is because it had super armor on it. And this one doesn't have super armor on it. That's it. And this one, front guard versus invincible. Invincible sometimes, I think. Half the time, airstrike invincibility doesn't even work. So I use balance strike. I know they're trying to improve the slanted slash, but I still like balance strike a little bit more. So let's say your airstrike is on cooldown, right? So what do? And an enemy comes up to you. You want to just like try to get to the side of them, and then if like nothing else is down, you do that, and that's like 1-2 CCs. Obviously you try to do it faster than that, but I'm just trying to show you in a general thing. So as always, just try to like, what the heck? Okay, so anyway, try to have your E buff or whatever kind of buff you have and go in, do that. and then if they're already down, you could get them. You have to know how to fight against other classes, and then, but like if you want to just, let's say something is on cooldown, that would be your combo. Or another thing you could do is slanted balance. That would knock them down as well. That means the way you get your CCs is a little bit differently, so you don't particularly do certain things in a set order. So you also have to know a little bit about your opponent on like what the animations look like, which is very difficult. So it's just a lot of PvP practice in general. But another thing you could do is that, and then if that successfully gets them down, you could float them and then just do your combo as usual. That's how you get it. Generally, I'm gonna say, so if we look at our skills, let's categorize a few things into light attacks, mediums, and heavies. Heavies meaning that it takes a longer animation, but it also does a lot of damage. So what I would consider a heavy attack is Wheel of Fortune, Lunacy of Vidir, and the Spirit Legacy. Those will be your biggest heavy hitter abilities, but they also take the most time, which means you can only generally get one attack in unless you CC the enemy down. So things I would consider a light attack or a light and medium are like Enforcement, Airstrike, Slanted Balance, good openers, and like an Unveiled Dagger, comma. So yeah, so you generally want to get the big attacks in after they're CC'd, and then put in some light and mediums before that, and just try to get them down, and then finish them off with the heavy. So yeah, so one thing you could do, another thing that it really depends on the situation. One is faster, you slanted balance them there, and then you CC them again. They should be knocked down twice. If you hit them, like by that time, you could probably get in a Lunacy. If not, if that's on cooldown, you can also do that. Oh wait, let me start over. That into another CC, and then you just hit them. They'll generally be at half depending on the player, but generally they will be. But let's say an enemy is about to charge and you're like watching it. You hold your shift E to comma slash. What this thing does is, assuming they're firing directly in front of you, in theory this is how forward guards work. Like it'll just like not CC you, and then you could just charge it up. You saw how they got knocked down instead. That's good. So CC, he's running. All right, well, anyway, a few things I want to show you and how to combo Nocturne as a succession DK. So Knockdown works with Lunacy of Vidir, and it also works with where is it? Oh yeah, comma slash and Twilight Dash. So what combo I use most is the one with Lunacy. So basically this is how it works. You do your Lunacy, right? And then you saw how you went invisible and went behind the enemy. That was your Nocturne cooldown. Another one you could use is, let's say you're in front of the enemy. What you want to do, it's a little bit different if I'm talking about Awakening, because your Twilight Dash is on F by default for here. Whereas if your Twilight Dash on Succession is not F, because it is something else. It is C by default. Just rebind it. So let's say I'm back here. I'm going to Twilight Dash into an enemy. And then you saw how I just turned and did that strike. That's Nocturne's second ability into combo. That one's a little bit harder to aim unless you know what you're doing. So I generally, like, if you just want to play a safer one, Lunacy into Nocturne is safer. So I guess you could say let's start off a new combo like right here. You CC them once, and then if they get up in time, you just float them again. Whether you're Whether your second, like, if Wheel of Fortune doesn't CC them, then your Enforcement will knock them down again, and then that's your 2 CC limit, and then you hit them with a Legacy or Lunacy, and then combo it. That's generally enough to get them down. Why are there so many people here? Oh my goodness. Alright, anyway. So basically, one other combo, this would be to stiffen them. So what I did was Unveiled Dagger, and then Stiffness on good hits. And so you basically want to hit F. So watch this. That would stiffen them, and then you do your Enforcements. Sometimes it works. But yeah, generally try to go in with your buff up if you can. Slanted balance them. Then you could drop that. If that doesn't CC them, your Wheel of Fortune will. And then assuming they don't get up in time, that's when you know you have a second to Lunacy. If not, you can always do that. And then that will sometimes stiffen depending on resistance numbers. But generally, if you want to look for an opener ability, like let's say you're staring at an enemy, they're staring at you, right? Both of you have forward guard up. What you're gonna want, what you could do, sometimes it's kind of risky doing this, but usually what I would do, let's say both people are in forward guard, standing in front of you watching, right? You could just like dash behind them and then do that, but generally people with a good reaction time will just turn their camera. So something that's harder to react to is how you would hit your Twilight Dash and then get behind them, float them, do whatever you can, whatever your combo, do that. It's cool. One thing about Dark Knights in particular is a lot of our spells or a lot of our skills are quick slots, and literally you can't attack with like a key combo. So Spirit Legacy, your big one, literally does not have a key combo. But I think Awakening does, but not Succession. Yeah, Shift R and B for Awakening, and it does not have a combo for Succession. That's why if you see me like spamming that, it's because that's literally the only way to activate it. Now, Lunacy of Vidir is also one that only works while quick slotted. So I think that goes for both Succession and Awakening. So you literally just have to quick slot it. There's no other way around it. Wheel of Fortune does work on quick slot, but something like getting into a Shift F is also okay. Then you just do your combo, and then depending on how long they're CC'd on the ground, you could just do that, and then someone else is there. Slanted balance. It's a lot of just knowing what to do. Look at every skill, and before the old layout never used to have it, but look at these icons right here. I know, like, let's say you're trying to learn DK for the first time, right? And you have like no idea what all these do. As a new player, I guess this goes for every class in general, but like what you should look at, this is I guess just a general tip. Look at these icons right here. Look, this means stiffness, down attack, and just look at what all of these do. Generally, the more of these little pictures down here, the better the skill is. Why some classes have like permanent super armors and forward guard chains, I have no idea, but it's fine. We just have to play around it. But yeah, Enforcement is a very strong ability, whether you believe it or not. So when you open up, this is what it looks like when you do a cross. And then the second cross would be Pervasive Darkness, and that also is pretty good. So, yep. Which is better, Slanted Balance versus Airstrike? It's very situational, but I guess in the most part, I use Slanted a little bit more, but Airstrike also, they're both very strong openers, and yeah, just for the most part, as we talked about before, like your heavies, mediums, and light attacks as in like heavies, these are the ones that do the most damage but are the slowest abilities. That means you want to get them down and then like CC them before using it. Otherwise, they just move out. You wasted the skill. Now you get CC'd and the fight's pretty much over. So just learn how all of these work, and then you should be fine. So yeah, if you want to watch some Star Zen videos, I do have that on the channel as well. I just do like a silent hour of me grinding. You can see how I chain in some abilities, and so that's generally what you do. You don't have to copy exactly, but as long as you see how I did all those skills while the enemy was for the most part knocked down, that's generally the idea. If they're CC'd, you just unload. If they're not CC'd, try to CC them. So whether you open with a slanted balance and then float them again to do all your damage abilities, that's also good. So just try to do as much as you can. It takes practice. Dark Knight, I'm gonna be honest with you, is like, it's not bad, but it's also not on par with like Succession Strikers, Wizards, and Witches. So just keep that in mind. But if you're doing it for PvE, you're doing just fine. It's not bad for PvE, despite what people say. You could still do relative numbers in terms of trash loot. I don't really keep track of trash loot anymore. When I grind with a video, I just keep the number up just so people who like to see it can see it. But like, I don't really track my trash loot. If I'm like, whether I'm like 100 off or 200 off, who cares? I just assume I just had some like bad RNG and loot, whatever. But if you're making like big differences, like 2,000 to 3,000 trash loot differences per hour, there's something wrong that you might need a tweak. But overall, if it's just like, what, 100 trash loot difference an hour, you're doing fine. That means you just need to like tighten up your rotation and your skills, or maybe you just didn't crit as much during that hour. But overall, you're probably doing fine. Just look at your skills. There's a lot I probably forgot to talk about, but for the most part, basic combos are just CC your enemy, get them down again, do big heavy attack, use your Nocturne as much as possible, hold your Q, be in forward guard, and then do damage. So yeah, I guess before we go, a few other questions. I think we covered gear, our add-ons, crystals, Nuvar versus Kudum, Blackstar versus Zarka, Evasion versus DR. If you're doing anything PvP and you want to do damage, just get the Vel's Heart when you can. To be honest, why do I even still have this Resplendent Crystal or Alchemy Stone? I have no idea. They gave the Perilla's Star away for like Season 2. And if you have that, I would say this is the PvE DP Crystal. Or not Crystal, Alch Stone. This one is more the PvP Protection Stone. So ultimately, I would say you just get Vel's Heart, but obviously I understand 10 billion is a lot of silver. So it really depends on what you're doing. If you're going like a meme DP build, this is okay. I just, for the most part, wanted to see how much of a difference this made in like Node Wars. Turns out you still get deleted with Protection Stone, and you do 3 less damage. Or what you would want to do is hit the Alch Stone and then switch to your Vels. Obviously, if you don't have a Vels, that's out of the question. But yeah, honestly, I don't think this is worth it if you're going like your standard like copy paste AP build. Just save up for a Vel and you'll be fine. And then this one is just a life skill stone. Don't worry about it. If you're a life skiller, even if you're a life skiller, this is just old. if I get a Khan's Heart, I'm gonna sell this. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, let me know. But overall, exquisite meal, good. I would not use Perfume of Courage if you have to buy them from the market. The reason why I use them is because the Oasis thing has been going on for like a year and a half, and you just kind of get them from boxes. So if I want to just show you right here. Ooh. Look, we have 8 boxes. And then they just kind of give you these premium elixir boxes that give you a perfume. So... oh my god, we got a Tungrad. Dude, I wish this... I would not cheer for these 5 mil things. It, like, baits me every time. Why are they... wow, that's rare. I think I've gotten my, like, 4th Tungrad accessory from an Oasis box in, like, 3,000 chests or something. But anyway, would not recommend buying perfumes unless you just like lighting 6 mil on fire every 20 minutes. Other than that, frenzy drafts, good enough for PvE. You definitely do not want to use that in PvP. You'll just get deleted even faster. But what I'd recommend, since a lot of people have literally hundreds of these drafts, the Giants one, probably okay enough for like Node Wars and Sieges. Would not really like burn 1 mil for each of them unless you just have more money than you really know what to do with, but it's an option, I guess. But for the most part, that's it. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know, because I think I covered everything. There's probably something I missed out there that I'll remember a few hours later, but I think I covered like the important things. So with that said, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys later.